The cry of a baby echoed through the giant house, breaking the silence like a plea for help. Upstairs, the infant screamed until his tiny lungs could bear no more. Downstairs, Maria froze mid-cleaning, her heart racing. That sound was unbearable, too familiar. She hesitated, then ran up the marble stairs, praying nothing had happened. When she pushed the nursery door open, her world stopped. The baby lay red-faced, trembling from hunger, and what she did next would change every life in that house, especially when her boss walked in and saw everything. Maria's hands trembled as she lifted the tiny baby from the crib. His skin was burning hot, his lips dry, his little fists clawing the air in desperate hunger. A spoiled bottle sat beside him on the table, its sour smell twisting her stomach. "Oh, dear God," she whispered. "You're starving." The baby's weak sobs turned into whimpers. She could see it. This child had been crying for hours. The expensive nursery was spotless, filled with toys and golden frames. But there was no love in sight. Maria pressed him to her chest, rocking gently. "Shoo, you're safe now." For a moment, she froze, her heart pounding painfully in her chest. It had only been 6 weeks since her own baby died in her arms, leaving behind an ache that refused to fade. She still woke up every night hearing phantom cries that weren't there. And now, here was another baby, crying just like hers once did. Tears filled her eyes. "I can't lose another one," she murmured without realizing what she was saying. Her body acted before her mind could stop it. She sat down on the rocking chair, trembling, and guided the hungry infant close to her breast. Instinct took over. The baby latched immediately, drinking greedily, his body relaxing for the first time. The world went quiet. Maria felt his heartbeat slow against hers, the rhythm syncing with her own. For the first time since her loss, she felt peace and guilt all at once. Then, the heavy sound of footsteps echoed in the hallway. She froze. Mr. Almeida, the baby's father, stood at the doorway, his expensive suit still on from a long day of meetings. His face changed from confusion to shock, to something unreadable. "Maria!" His voice was sharp, cold. "What do you think you're doing?" Maria's body went rigid. She covered herself quickly, holding the baby protectively. "Sir, please, he was hungry. The milk had spoiled. I hired you to clean floors, not to touch my son," he snapped, stepping closer. "Please, sir, he could have died." Her voice cracked, the tears coming faster than her words. Mr. Almeida looked at his son, now silent, sleeping peacefully for the first time that week. The anger in his eyes flickered, replaced by confusion, and something else. Still, his tone stayed cold. "Put him down, Maria. Now." Her arms hesitated. The baby was calm, breathing softly against her. But her heart told her, once she let go, everything would change. Maria placed the baby gently back in the crib, her hands shaking. "I swear, sir, I didn't mean." "Enough." Mr. Almeida's voice was low but cutting, the kind of tone that could silence a whole room. "Leave the room." The words hit her harder than any slap. She wanted to explain, to tell him that the baby's lips were cracked, that his tiny body had gone limp, but his glare stopped her. Her throat burned, but she nodded and stepped back, her eyes locked on the sleeping infant. When she turned to leave, he spoke again. "Wait." She froze. Mr. Almeida stepped closer to the crib. For a moment, he simply watched his son's peaceful face, the first quiet the house had known in days. "He's sleeping?" he muttered, more to himself than to her. Maria swallowed hard. "Yes, sir. He stopped crying when you—" He hesitated, his voice faltering. "When you fed him?" "Yes, sir." She stared at the floor. "I shouldn't have. I couldn't watch him suffer." Silence filled the room. The clock on the wall ticked louder than ever. Finally, he sighed, long and heavy. "Go downstairs. We'll talk later." Maria nodded, clutching the edge of her apron to keep her hands from trembling. As she left, she felt his eyes on her. Confused, judging, and yet not cruel. In the kitchen, the head maid, Dona Rosa, was wiping the counters when Maria stumbled in, pale as a ghost. "Girl, what happened?" I think I'm fired," Maria whispered. Rosa frowned. "What did you do?" Maria's voice was barely a breath. "I fed the baby." Rosa's hands stopped mid-motion. "Fed? How?" Maria's silence said everything. Rosa's eyes widened. "Oh, meu Deus. Maria, why?" "He was starving, Dona Rosa. The milk was spoiled, the nanny gone. He was burning with fever. I couldn't just stand there." Rosa shook her head, torn between shock and sympathy. "You've got a good heart, but rich people don't understand hearts. They only see rules." Maria wiped her tears with the back of her hand. "Maybe I went too far." Upstairs, Mr. Almeida stood by the crib for a long time, watching his son breathe peacefully. The image of what he had just seen wouldn't leave his mind. That poor maid holding his baby like a mother, her face filled with both pain and love. He picked up the spoiled bottle from the table. The stench was awful. He realized she was right. The baby could have gotten sick, maybe worse. He sat down, rubbing his temples. "Helena, what would you have done?" He whispered to the photograph of his late wife on the nightstand. "Would you have let her help?" The question lingered in the air with no answer. Hours passed. The mansion grew quiet again. Maria finished cleaning in silence, her eyes red and swollen. When she finally went to the servants' quarters, her heart was heavy. She began to pack her small bag, expecting dismissal by morning. But at dawn, a knock came on her door. It was Mr. Almeida. She jumped to her feet, her heart pounding. "Sir, please, I'll leave right away. Just let me get my—" "Stop." He held up a hand. His voice was softer this time. "You're not fired." Maria blinked, confused. "Sir," he sighed, "you did something I can't explain. You crossed a line, but you also saved my son." Tears welled in her eyes. "I never meant any harm, I swear." "I know." He looked tired, broken even. "From now on, if you ever think something's wrong with Miguel, you tell me first. Don't act alone. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir." He hesitated before leaving. "And Maria, thank you." When the door closed, Maria sank onto the bed, clutching her chest. She didn't know whether to cry in relief or fear. But one thing was certain, that house and the people in it would never be the same again. For the next few days, the mansion stayed unusually quiet. Maria worked like a shadow, cleaning silently, avoiding eye contact, keeping her distance from the baby's room. But even from the kitchen, she could hear his soft coos and giggles echoing through the corridors. Miguel, that was his name. The baby she had fed once and couldn't stop thinking about. Every morning, she saw Mr. Almeida pacing the halls with him in his arms. The dark circles under his eyes were fading. He was finally sleeping. And every time their eyes met, there was an unspoken tension. Guilt, maybe gratitude, but also something neither could name. Then, one afternoon, the silence broke. The front door opened, and a woman's perfume filled the air before she even appeared. It was Clara, the new nanny, young, glamorous, and far too confident. She walked in, phone in hand, chewing gum as if she owned the place. "Good afternoon," she said, barely glancing at Maria. "Where's the boss?" Maria pointed upstairs, trying to hide her discomfort. When Mr. Almeida came down, he greeted the new hire politely. "Clara, this is Maria. She helps with the housework." Clara looked her up and down. "Ah, the maid. Nice to meet you." It wasn't a greeting, it was dismissal. From that day on, Clara made sure Maria felt invisible. She'd whisper on her phone during work, laugh behind Maria's back, roll her eyes whenever she passed. But what hurt most was that Clara often left Miguel alone while she scrolled through social media or painted her nails in the living room. Maria saw everything. The baby's hungry cries, the neglected bottles, the missed diaper changes. But after what had happened, she didn't dare say a word. One evening, while dusting the hallway, Maria heard Clara talking on the phone. "Girl, you won't believe it. The boss hired this maid, total peasant. And rumor is, she breastfed his baby. Can you imagine? Like some tragic soap opera." Clara laughed. I'm telling you, she's probably trying to get his sympathy. Maria froze. Her chest tightened, breath catching in her throat. So someone had seen. Maybe Mr. Almeida hadn't told anyone, but somehow it had leaked out. By the next morning, the servants' whispers had begun. She really did that? One cook asked. Apparently yes, another replied. And the boss didn't fire her? That's strange, isn't it? I heard she lost her own baby, someone added. Poor thing went crazy after that. Maria pretended not to hear, but every whisper felt like a blade against her heart. Days later, as she folded linens in the laundry room, Mr. Almeida appeared in the doorway. Maria, can I speak with you? Her heart dropped. Yes, sir. He closed the door behind them. I need to ask something. Did you tell anyone about what happened that day? Her head snapped up. No, sir. I swear. I would never. I believe you, he said quickly. But rumors are spreading. People in the neighborhood are starting to talk. About me, he nodded. About you, and about me. Maria's stomach churned. Sir, I didn't mean to cause trouble. I swear. I only wanted to help your child. I know that, he said, rubbing his temples. But you know how people are. They twist everything. They think he hesitated, embarrassed. They think I have something with you. Maria's face went pale. What? That's absurd. I know, he said quietly. But the world doesn't care what's true, only what's easy to believe. She looked down at her hands, rough, cracked, stained with years of work. Sir, I can leave if it's causing you problems. He looked at her for a long moment. No, you're not the problem, Maria. They are. But gossip spreads faster than truth. Within days, neighbors began calling, some with concern, others with barely concealed malice. I just think you should be careful, Gabriel, one said over the phone. That maid could be manipulating you. She lost her mind after losing her baby, another whispered. You're too kind. People like her. They take advantage. Each word chipped away at his patience. He started avoiding Maria, not out of anger, but shame. Every time he saw her carrying laundry or sweeping the floor, guilt twisted inside him. And yet, he couldn't help noticing the baby's laughter whenever she was near. Miguel's little hands would reach for her, his eyes lighting up. Clara, on the other hand, barely managed to smile for him. One night, Maria finished cleaning and passed by the nursery. The door was half open. She peeked in, and her heart stopped. Clara was on the bed, asleep, phone in hand, while the baby lay crying on the floor, tangled in a blanket. Maria ran in, scooping him up before he could roll any further. Shoo! Shoo! My angel! The baby's cries softened against her shoulder. That warmth, that tiny heartbeat. It was everything she'd lost and everything she'd found again. Then, a shadow appeared in the doorway. It was Mr. Almeida. He took one look at the scene, the careless nanny, the crying baby, and Maria holding him again, and his jaw tightened. This time, though, his eyes didn't hold anger, only realization. Something was about to change. Mr. Almeida's voice was like thunder. Clara! The nanny jerked awake, confused, blinking at the light. Wah! What's happening? He pointed at the floor, where the baby's blanket was still crumpled. He fell. You left him alone. I must have dozed off, she stammered. It's late. I was just... Enough. His voice shook with restrained fury. Get out. You're finished here. Clara's eyes darted toward Maria, who still held the baby close. Jealousy flashed across her face. So this is what it's about, huh? You're firing me because of her. Because of your negligence, he snapped. And yes, because she's the only one who actually cares for my son. Clara's lips twisted into a smirk. Care? Please, you really think she's some saint? The whole neighborhood's already talking, Gabriel. They say she's obsessed with your baby, that she's pretending to be his mother. Maria's heart stopped. That's not true. Clara ignored her, stepping closer to him. You don't even see it, do you? She lost her child, and now she's trying to replace him with yours. It's sick. Enough, he warned again. But Clara's words had already planted the same poisonous seed that others had before. I should have listened to everyone, he muttered under his breath, almost to himself. Maria froze. Sir, you don't believe her, do you? He turned to her, his eyes uncertain. I don't know what to believe anymore, Maria. That single sentence cut deeper than any insult. She stood there, holding the baby close, shaking. After everything? After I saved your son? After I lost mine? You still think I'd ever hurt him? He looked torn, guilt battling doubt. People are saying things I can't ignore. I have my reputation, my family's name. Your reputation? She cried. Is that all that matters? Not the truth? Not your child? He rubbed his temples, stepping away. You need to understand. I understand perfectly, Maria interrupted, her voice trembling but steady. You care more about what they think than what's right. For a moment, neither spoke. Only the baby's soft breathing filled the silence. Then Mr. Almeida said the words that broke everything. I think it's best if you leave. The world seemed to tilt beneath her feet. Sir, please. Her voice was barely a whisper. Don't make me go. I have nowhere to. This isn't personal, he said coldly, avoiding her eyes. It's what's best for everyone. Maria felt her chest cave in. She kissed the baby's forehead, her tears falling onto his tiny cheeks. I only ever wanted to help, she whispered. Then she handed Miguel back to his father. The child instantly began to cry, reaching for her again. But she turned and walked away before her heart could stop her. As she left the mansion, rain began to pour. Heavy, merciless, cold. Her thin clothes clung to her body, her hair plastered to her face. Still, she kept walking, her steps unsteady but determined. Behind her, through the window, Mr. Almeida stood frozen, the baby screaming in his arms. He tried to calm him, but the cries only grew louder, sharper, more desperate. Like an echo of the night this all began. Days passed. Miguel refused to eat. He barely slept. Doctors said it was stress. But Mr. Almeida knew better. He had seen that kind of emptiness before, when his wife died, when he stopped hearing laughter in the house. Every time he looked at his son's pale face, guilt clawed at him. He called for a new nanny, then another. None lasted more than a day. The baby rejected all of them. Finally, one exhausted night, Mr. Almeida sat in the nursery alone. His shirt was stained with tears, the baby's and his own. I'm sorry, he whispered to the picture of his late wife on the dresser. I thought I was protecting him, but maybe I just took away the only person who truly loved him. The next morning, Miguel's fever spiked. Panic took over. Mr. Almeida rushed him to the hospital, where doctors ran test after test. He's dehydrated, exhausted, one said. There's no physical illness. He's emotionally distressed. Emotionally distressed. Those words hit him like a hammer. That night, sitting beside the hospital crib, he couldn't escape the truth. The baby wasn't sick from hunger or infection. He was sick from absence, from losing Maria. Meanwhile, miles away, Maria wandered the streets in the same rain that hadn't stopped since that night. She hadn't found work. No one would hire her without a reference. She slept in shelters when there was space, under bus stops when there wasn't. Everywhere she went, people whispered the same story, the maid who fed the boss's baby. Each rumor twisted the truth a little more. One said she was obsessed. Another said she tried to steal the baby. She stopped correcting them. What was the point? The truth no longer mattered in a world that only loved gossip. But late at night, when the city quieted and the rain softened, she'd close her eyes and hear Miguel's soft laugh in her memory, the sound that once healed her heart. She prayed he was safe. A week later, a knock echoed through her shelter's door. Maria Nunez? She looked up, startled. The man in a dark coat stood dripping from the rain. He removed his hat. It was Mr. Almeida. Her breath caught. What are you doing here? I was wrong, he said simply. His voice cracked, the arrogance gone. Miguel's in the hospital. He hasn't eaten in days. He's dying, Maria. She stood, heart pounding. What? The doctors say he's not sick. He's grieving. For you. Her lips parted, trembling. For me. He nodded. He needs you, Maria. Please, come back. She hesitated, remembering the night he cast her out, the cold rain on her skin. And when the neighbors start whispering again, what then? Will you throw me away again to protect your name? His voice broke. No, I don't care what they think anymore. I only care about my son, and the woman who saved him. For a moment, Maria didn't move. Then she whispered, If I come, it's for the baby, not for you. He nodded. For him. That's all I ask. Outside, the rain began to slow, as if the sky itself was listening. Maria grabbed her thin coat and followed him into the night. Toward the hospital, toward the child who had changed both their lives. When Maria entered the hospital room, the world seemed to pause. Machines beeped softly. The smell of antiseptic filled the air. And there, inside a small white crib, lay Miguel. Fragile, pale, smaller than she remembered. Her breath caught. My God! What have they done to you? She whispered. The moment he heard her voice, the baby stirred. His tiny fingers twitched, his eyelids fluttered. Then, slowly, he turned his head toward her. And for the first time in days, Miguel smiled. A weak, trembling smile, but real. Doctors who had spent weeks watching the child deteriorate stood frozen, as if witnessing a miracle. Mr. Almeida covered his mouth, tears welling in his eyes. He recognizes you, he whispered. Maria stepped closer, trembling. Of course he does. When she reached into the crib and took the baby in her arms, the machine's rhythm steadied. Miguel sighed softly and nuzzled into her shoulder, as if he had finally come home. The doctor turned to Mr. Almeida. Whatever bond they share, don't break it again. That night, Maria refused to leave Miguel's side. She sang softly, the same lullaby she once sang to her own lost child, her voice quivering between joy and sorrow. Mr. Almeida sat quietly in the corner, watching them. The harsh, proud man who once valued reputation above truth looked smaller now, human, remorseful, changed. I don't deserve forgiveness, he said finally. Maria didn't look at him. No, you don't. He nodded slowly. But I'm asking anyway. Silence filled the room. Only the hum of the heart monitor broke it. After a long moment, she said, I believed God took everything from me that night. My child, my home, my hope. Then I met Miguel. For a while, I thought he was giving me another chance. But when you threw me out, I thought I was being punished again. Her eyes met his, filled not with hatred, but with exhaustion. Do you know what it's like to lose a baby twice? He lowered his head. Yes, he said quietly. I lost my wife, and I almost lost my son, because I cared more about pride than people. For the first time, Maria saw the grief behind his face. Not just guilt, but pain that mirrored her own. Then maybe, she whispered, we both deserve a second chance. By morning, Miguel's color had returned. His breathing was steady, his cheeks faintly pink. The doctors called it a remarkable recovery. But Maria knew what it really was, love, finally allowed to heal instead of being shamed. When they were discharged days later, Mr. Almeida didn't take them back to the mansion right away. Instead, he drove to a quiet seaside village, hours away from the city's gossip and whispers. I rented a small place here, he said softly, just until everything settles. Maria looked out the window at the ocean's endless blue. It was the first time in months she'd seen something that looked like freedom. They spent the next weeks rebuilding routines. Miguel laughed again, learned to crawl, clapped when Maria sang. Mr. Almeida learned, slowly, to listen instead of command. Some evenings, Maria caught him staring. Not with desire, but with something gentler. Gratitude, admiration, a quiet understanding that words couldn't express. One night, as the sunset bled gold through the window, he spoke. Maria, when I first met you, I thought you were just another employee. Someone paid to keep the house clean. But you're the reason my son is alive. You're the reason I am. She smiled faintly, And you're the reason I learned to forgive without forgetting. They didn't speak after that. They didn't need to. Months later, they returned to the city. The same neighbors who once whispered now looked away when they passed. The same voices that judged had gone quiet. But something had changed inside the house too: warmth, laughter, and the soft chaos of a real family. Miguel's first birthday arrived on a bright spring morning. The mansion's garden was filled with balloons, flowers, and a handful of guests. Maria stood by the table, helping Miguel smash frosting into his face, laughing until she cried. When she turned, she found Mr. Almeida watching her. "You should be in the picture too," he said. "I'm just the maid," she teased, smiling. He shook his head. "No, Maria. You're his mother." Her breath caught. He gestured to the photographer. "Take it again. This time with her." As the camera clicked, Miguel reached out his frosting-covered hand and pressed it against Maria's cheek, leaving a white mark like a blessing. Everyone laughed. Even she did. For a moment, everything was simple. No past, no judgment, just love. Later that night, when the guests had gone, Maria stood alone by the crib. Miguel was sleeping peacefully, his hand curled around her finger. Mr. Almeida appeared in the doorway. "He's happy," he said softly. Maria smiled. "He's loved." He hesitated. "You know, people will keep talking. They always do." She looked up, calm now. "Let them. I'm done living for their approval." He stepped closer. "Then live for what?" She looked at the sleeping baby, her voice steady. "For him. For peace. For what's right, even when no one else understands." Mr. Almeida nodded, a small smile tugging at his lips. "You've taught me more about strength than any success ever did." She turned to him. "And you've taught me that even the powerful can learn to be humble." They both laughed quietly. Two broken souls who had somehow stitched each other back together. Outside, the city lights shimmered through the window like distant stars. Years later, Miguel would grow up hearing fragments of the story. How a poor maid once saved his life. How love didn't need wealth or blood to be real. And whenever he asked, "Mama, is that story true?" Maria would smile and say, "It's as true as the love that made it happen." Then she'd look across the room where Mr. Almeida, older now, softer, would be reading the newspaper, his eyes finding hers over the top of the page. They'd share a small, knowing smile, not of romance, but of respect, of forgiveness, because sometimes families aren't born from perfection. They're born from brokenness healed by love.